the CentreSteer podcast, a podcast by, for, and about Land Rover owners.
Welcome to the CentreSteer podcast number 150 for September of 2025. CentreSteer is a monthly podcast for Land Rover enthusiasts, hobbyists, and owners around the world. I'm John Costage, and joining me are fellow owners and enthusiasts Harold, Dixon, and Morgan. And we are all together, and we are live from the Mid-Atlantic Rally in Arvonia, Virginia.
This is a milestone event for ROAV and for the MAR. And for us, this is our 150th episode. We've been coming to you every month for 1/8 of 1 century.
And we're all together. This is a rare opportunity, rare event. We're all in one place.
It's rare enough when we're all together on Zoom doing a recording, but to actually be able to reach out and slap each other.
Dixon, say hello at least.
I am here.
You're not in the Sky Creeper?
Not in the Sky Creeper this time. In a nice, relaxing lawn chair of some type.
We should thank Lecker Defenders. They have offered us to use their electricity. Also,
and their lounge.
And we can see a Series 1 is right next to us. It's a wonderful example of a Series 1 canvas top.
A South African import, Series 1. This is what he does, and a very nice gentleman and a very kind friend to us to offer us this hospitality for this live recording.
Yes, and this is my first time at MAR, so I'm very thankful to be here.
We have taken Morgan's MAR virginity. Popped his mud cherry.
At least here in the sort of red clay mud of Virginia.
The cherry-colored mud.
Yes, exactly.
That's right. Dixon, how many MARs is this for you?
Quite a few. I've been coming here since Penland Farm, Pearls Pond, the other location that they had following Pearls Pond.
There were several.
There were several. The first one alongside a river.
Yes, it's right back
long
again
field.
along the James River. We will talk more about MAR coming up in the program. You need to listen past the news, and then we're going to do a field report effectively from MAR at Pearls Pond.
Now, today is Sunday, and everybody is packing up. Fortunately, we set up in Lecker's lounge just off the Persian rug, so they actually cannot pull the rug out from under us while they're packing up.
Well played, sir.
The Land Rover lounge is right next to us, too, so you want some coffee. Or
JLR has been here graciously offering free coffee all weekend long.
Much appreciated.
Thanks to our Patreon and Buy Me a Tea subscribers for their support. Patreon supporters receive bonus content, including 10 questions, our Land Rover-oriented question and answer lightning round. If you're enjoying the podcast, please consider supporting the podcast through Patreon, Buy Me a Tea, or sporting a T-shirt or a sticker. Harold now is the keeper of all of the shirts.
I am the official podcast CentreSteer quartermaster. And
our friend up at Cuyahoga Valley Land Rover Club bought us 5 teas, thanks to DJ. You know who you are. Thanks, DJ. DJ says, thank you for the monthly podcast and all the great guests. Past episodes have been great to listen on my morning jogs. Keep up the great work.
Is this DJ our former neighbor DJ?
No, this is DJ.
A different DJ.
Different DJ. This is the DJ who started the Cuyahoga Valley Land Rover Club.
Right, yeah. Okay, that DJ. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks very much, DJ. And now it's time for the North American events calendar with Dixon live in person. You're here, Dixon.
It's actually rather short this time. Because
it's the end of the season,
is it? It's the end of the season. Anything else after this is going to be very small and local, and we haven't heard about it yet at Anarch or through the various surveying done with the Ottawa Valley magazine/newsletter. But there is the Uwharrie Rover Expedition on October 17th to 19th in the Uwharrie National Forest. That's always a very interesting event and so on. And well, going to it, I've been to it a couple of times in the past.
That's also muddy, typically.
It can be very muddy. It's very interesting because all the trails are down in almost channels. There's one fantastic photo op where you're going up a hill and actually your roof is below the ground level in there. But after that, I guess next month we'll probably have to start talking about the long laundry list of 2026 events, starting with the Winter Romp in February. just to make sure you're paying attention.
That's right. Time to start your preparations for the winter
I think that's
romp.
the thing. You come back from the summer season, and then begins the season of prepping for the romp.
That's right.
There is one other event that is sneaking up. You probably already need to be registered, and that is the Pilgrimage, which I believe is in South Royalton, Vermont. And I don't have my notes in front of me, but I believe it starts October 5th. So pretty much right as this podcast comes out, you're probably going to be on your way. And my understanding is that's the closest to the reboot of the Vermont Overland Birdwatching Safari that we're going to get.
Ah, yes, that one. Interesting event that was. And that's about it for Rover events for 2025. For more information on these last two events, go to anarch.club. You will find all of the links and so on there. The 2026 season's getting started. Winter Romp will be the first one. Registration is actually open at this point in time. The website has been updated, though there's no real details. But looking on past history, I would expect it's going to be snow, cold, and pretty much the same.
Cold. Cold is definitely a word.
That is the expectation with that event.
And for Anarch Club members, at least this initial time, the Anarch will be running the Stewards event again, off-road training and such. That registration will be available in late November, early December, I understand. Talk to your club reps and so on about how you would go about going on that.
And that's in the springtime, as I
That's going to
recall.
be in March, late March, I believe.
I know it's April. The dates have already been posted.
And again, that's in New Mexico, I believe.
That's
yes.
right.
Tularosa, New Mexico.
But there's limited seating for that event. The clubs get their opportunity first to go and decide who's going to be going on it. And if there are any spots at the end, then you have an opportunity to register.
Is it like was before, each club gets to nominate two?
Yes.
Yes.
It'll be the
Okay.
same way. And it'll be a bit more expensive for next year because last year it was a 2-day event, and next year it's going to be a 3-day event.
Right. Yeah, they extended it a day. Had gotten really good feedback, and they wanted to do more, so it's been extended by 1 day.
The participants last year really pushed for a longer training session, and they got it.
So if you thought it was grueling last year, this next year is going to be that much tougher.
And much more educational.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
If I remember correctly from our last Anarch board meeting, I think they're going to try to make it easier for people to fly in and then borrow a vehicle or use a vehicle on site. And don't hold me to that. I believe that's the case. But if you're considering going and you're like, oh, I can't get the time off because I got to drive all across the country, I think there is, I believe, caveat here, that there's going to be that opportunity for you to fly, and then you won't have to take so much time off to drive there.
It's a long drive from Ontario or the Northeast.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. It's time for the news. The good and the bad about doing this live and us doing this at the end of March as everyone else is packing up and going home, as I see a Series 2 driving away right now. It's like we would like to go home ourselves, but the news is so short. Normally there's lots of news, but the news is so short because, you may or may not know, Land Rover cannot produce any vehicles at the moment.
This is the point where I wish I had my sound effect machine, because we need to have an air raid siren playing in the background for this story.
So
We are under attack.
Let me read from my stories here. We'll take it as they go. This one is inside the Jaguar Land Rover hack. Stalled smart factories, outsourced cybersecurity, and supply chain woes. And this is from The Guardian. The first external signs of the chaos about to hit JLR, Britain's largest automotive employer, came on the quiet last Sunday of August. Managers at the factory in Halewood, Merseyside, told industry contacts there might have been a hack, although it's not clear then just how bad the situation was. That changed quickly on the Monday morning. JLR, the maker of Jaguar and Land Rover brands, quickly shut down systems after realizing the severity of the cyber attack. 3 weeks later, the car maker is still incapacitated, unable to produce at any of its factories across the UK, Slovakia, Brazil, India, although the Chinese joint venture is thought to be operating. The hack is likely to cost JLR hundreds of millions of pounds and cause turmoil across its sprawling supply chain, particularly in the West Midlands, surrounding the company's headquarters in Gaydon and the Solihull factory, where it makes its money spinner, Range Rovers, With little hope of an imminent restart, the UK government is facing increasing calls for financial support of the suppliers. Factory workers have been told not to return until at least Wednesday. This was last week, the third week of September. But several people close to JLR believe that the wait could be longer. Managers may have access to emails, but computer-aided design, engineering software, and product lifecycle software was down. However, the company has put in workarounds to make payments and ship cars to customers and has focused on keeping existing customers happy with a flow of spare parts. And I read somewhere else that they're fulfilling these orders by writing the sales slips on paper. Like there's no computer going on.
Doing it old school on paper.
That's how they're keeping it going. The hack will cast a shadow over Mardell's legacy. You may recall that Adrian Mardell is supposed to retire here, I think, at the end of the year.
Not a good way to go out.
No, his task over the 3 years in charge has been to oversee a turnaround strategy called Reimagine that involves selling cars, but at a much higher prices. That resulted in 11 consecutive quarters of profits. Despite tariffs and global instability prompted by Russia and its invasion of Ukraine, Mardell has also decided to wait for the right moment for a new electric Range Rover and the new Jaguar after a controversial rebrand, with further delays now possible. JLR has been owned since 2008 by Tata Group, and thus those of us in the IT space are already thinking, hey, Tata does IT, right? The car maker is not only part of the sprawling conglomerate to have questions to answer after the hack. In 2023, JLR outsourced a huge part of its computer systems to TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. TCS is one of the biggest outsourcing companies in the world and makes the bulk of dividends paid out to the Tata family's holding company. So just to be clear, Jaguar Land Rover is owned by Tata. TCS is Tata Consulting Services, just to close the loop there.
The good thing about that is it seems like maybe the execs at JLR maybe don't have to do as much explaining to the parent company because, hey, buddy, it's your guys.
TCS has been at the center of the response to the hack that has crippled JLR, with a large number of employees scrambling to work out the source of the intrusion. TCS did not respond to requests for comment, and this is the Guardian article again. Under the 5-year, £800 million contract agreed to in 2023, TCS and JLR plan to rapidly transform, simplify, and manage its digital and IT estate, supporting its broad strategic business transformation, unquote. TCS runs large parts of JLR's key computer systems, ranging from its network to data connections, and crucially, its cybersecurity.
At least they did.
I don't think that's going to change, actually, just because they're all in-house, but yeah. Part of the reimagination strategy required more flexible software to enable the luxury car maker to produce Range Rovers in precisely the configuration demanded by the global rich, paying £120,000 plus, all the while retaining the efficiency of the high-volume factory. That's all those special editions that they do. That's part of that. Quote, I would argue JLR software is probably more complex than NASA putting a spacecraft into space, unquote, said one supplier. When it works, it's a thing of wonder. This has exposed it, unquote. One of TCS's jobs was to manage the upgrade of JLR factory systems to the latest software from the German company SAP. That software was vital to managing production of vehicles and getting parts to the right place at the right time, as well as the handshake systems that link it to suppliers. SAP also declined to comment. That sounds like just-in-time manufacturing.
Doesn't it?
The fact that everything is connected in JLR systems appeared to have become a vulnerability. When it discovered the intrusion, the car maker was unable to isolate factories or functions, forcing it to shut down most of its systems. That's a flat network. This is John speaking now. That's a flat network. Not a good thing.
I don't even know where to begin on discussing this one. From your last comment, it's not a flat network. There's documentation and stuff out there called zoning. They've obviously not properly zoned their networks to isolate the sections. It does not have any interior firewalling between production and development and sales and finance and all the rest of it. One could go talk for hours about the complete and utter failure of this one. It's highly embarrassing that they could go and have their pants down between at the floor so effectively.
All the fact that it's all in-house, because you have your manufacturing operation and you're running their whole entire operation, and then this happens.
To do my soapbox for a second, IT security developed out of British standards, which were done by Margaret Thatcher after the British went and blew millions of pounds on a bunch of IT projects. Eventually, you got something called ISO 27001 that goes and talks to risk management and so on and how you do these things. In the United States, NIST has 837 and 853 that all talk to risk management and all the controls and everything to do it. Canada has ITSG 33A. The Brits have their own specialized things coming out of GCHQ.
And we've also got the MITRE ATT&CK framework, which is another thing you can use as reference.
And it's patently obvious that the people running the show don't even know what these things are. And if this was back in the 1980s, sure, I'd understand it. But by the 90s, by the turn of the century, with the Y2K issues, you haven't fixed any of this stuff 25 years later? It's absolutely incredible.
And knowing how the development process works for me, the way that you connect these disparate systems is not usually in such a way that would allow any of this to happen at all.
And as quickly as it did.
And as quickly. And to not have the ability to even narrow down what the attack vector was and to have to shut everything down.
What I suspect happened, and what I meant by flat network, is that there were no firewalls between the systems.
No zoning.
Zoning, firewalls, just trying to make it clear to other people.
No bulkheads.
There we go.
It's like the Titanic without waterproof bulkheads.
Yeah. And then with it being that kind of flat network and no firewalls and no breaks between the systems, because they wanted it to function quickly and have all that customization and connectivity in front, this causes the problem when one thing gets hacked, one thing gets popped, as we like to say in security, then the whole thing went down very quickly. If you had those firewalls in place and they were functioning correctly, you might have lost everything, but you theoretically could have kept some systems functioning independently.
You can circle the wagons around what's left.
You'd have lost one zone.
Yes,
and proper zoning, even with all the firewalls and such in between, there would be no perceptible impact on performance in anything else.
I wouldn't go that far, but it would have been easier to recover.
That also raises a question about another thing that people may have heard of and so on, and that's called backups. They should be able to trace back to where the attack...
BCDR, sir, in the business continuance and disaster recovery.
Yeah, but also especially since it sounds like a fair amount of the implementation was using SAP, which is an outside company. Obviously, we haven't really gotten a comment from them yet, but there should have been.
We have SAP where we work, and we do not have any of these problems.
Right. And in the U.S., a lot of the government operations in small states like mine heavily utilize SAP, and they do not have these sorts of problems, even though in the state of Vermont, we've had the health insurance system get a cyber hack recently, and they had to deal with that, but it was just one portion. It really feels like this is akin to a series vehicle only having one or two fuses for the entire electrical system.
And the one only does the dome light. The other one does everything.
Yeah, but to be developing new systems at this point that are that vulnerable and that unprotected is just... It's jaw-dropping.
It is, especially for a multi-billion-dollar company. And you have a parent company that I'm sure they deal with this stuff all the time. Why don't we move on, talk a little more about the hack itself. Yeah. According to this article, the hack will raise questions for TCS, which also works with Marks & Spencer and the Co-op, two British retailers who suffered attacks this year. Reuters reported in May that TCS was the means of access for hackers to get into Marks & Spencer's systems over the Easter weekend. TCS said in June the statement that no TCS systems or users were compromised. The links with the JLR attack and the retail incidents have led to speculation that the hacks could have been carried out by the same group. The M&S and Co-op hacks have been blamed on an English language-speaking hacking community known as Scattered Spider. 4 arrests have been made in the UK in relation to those two hacks. Soon after the JLR incident, a channel on the Telegram platform posted a screenshot of what appeared to be the car maker's internal IT systems, as well as a news article about the attack. The channel's name was pointedly a combination of scattered spider and two other English language speaking or Western-based hacking groups. One is, I guess, Lapsus, if you want to say that, and Shiny Hunters.
Well, I would actually believe Tata's statement that TCS or TSC systems were not hacked because those are all in India and they're all in their head office. This is about their clients that are paying lots of money to go and manage their systems, and they were compromised. Again, it just signals certain things.
Continuing on here about the supply chain pressure, JLR has access to about £6 billion in cash, likely enough resources to cope with a crisis even without the help of the parent conglomerate Tata. Jim Williamson of the bond rating agency Credit Sites estimates that JLR could burn through as much as £900 million of cash in September, with a £1.7 billion decline in working capital, although it could probably recoup a big chunk of that through catch-up sales. That's catch up, not catch up.
Okay, just had
I
to
was
check.
wondering
Got
about
me
that.
thinking.
We all looked at each other.
Just want to see if you're paying
quizzically.
attention.
How's their mustard business?
They relish it. Williamson added that JLR had plenty of...
And this concludes the podcast, as we will all be leaving John to himself at this point.
Good night.
Williamson added that JLR had plenty of options if it needed short-term cash, including issuing new debt, borrowing from banks, or even the government's support. But from the same company and supply chain, the problems may be existential. JLR has set up a help desk for suppliers, yet some believe the government needs to step in. JLR has not asked for state help for itself, but is trying to share information on the extent of its supply chain that may include more than 700 companies making 30,000 parts that can make up a car.
Oof.
Meanwhile, many people in JLR are still in investigation mode. According to one person close to the company, while others try to rebuild systems in parallel, several people said the company generally did not know when it would be able to restart, although we have a little update on this since. Even when JLR managed to recover its computer systems, the restart will be complicated by more than 1,000 cars on lines in various stages of build. JLR will either have to make individual plans for the parts needed for each vehicle on the production lines or manually move the vehicles off the lines and then try to put them back into the system.
If they had proper business continuity planning or disaster recovery planning, this wouldn't be a problem.
Yes, but they have SAP has the specialized system that allows them to make all those customized vehicles. Why can't they just pop this back in and say, look, this is a little off?
So turn every stalled vehicle on the line into its own special edition?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, there we go.
There's
probably-
a chance to recover their losses.
The Cyber Attack Edition, the Range Rover Cyber Attack Edition.
Everybody gets a partially built vehicle.
There you go. And a box of parts they can finish their own for
Some
for only
handwritten notes.
£100,000 extra.
Actually, judging from this is going to be the one that comes with carburetors and positive earth.
There you go.
So for this is from Wired.com. It's just some extra to add to the discussion here. This one added, whenever there's a hack in any part of the supply chain, whether it's a manufacturer at the top of the pyramid or a firm farther down, digital connections between companies may be severed to stop attackers from spreading from one network to the next. Connections via VPNs or APIs may be stopped. And then Orla Cox, head of a cybersecurity communications company, he says, quote, some may even take stronger measures, such as blocking domains and IP addresses. Then things like email are no longer usable between the two organizations. I read that to say those things apparently didn't happen. Those were not in place. They didn't have VPNs. It didn't seem like there were VPNs or APIs that they probably could have stopped, or maybe the hacker got access to the API calls.
That is the problem in cybersecurity that all of this is planning and structure is supposed to mitigate, is someone having the keys to everything. And once you think they have the keys to everything, that's it. There's nothing that's safe.
This goes to your point, Dixon, about risk reduction. Is where are those keys? Where are they stored? Who has access to them? How often are they changed? Is there a plan for if something does get hacked or attacked?
All I would say at this point is throw out your DNS servers and bring in some new ones.
Yes. Maybe sign up for a brand new SAP account and start over fresh from there.
No, move everything to the cloud and let your AI handle it. That'll fix it all.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I can imagine the prompts being typed right now.
Another article here. This is from The Guardian. This was a couple days after the last one I read. This is September 24th. The government looks at buying up JLR parts to protect jobs and suppliers. The government could start buying parts from suppliers The business secretary is considering a plan that would lead to the government buying parts suppliers and then selling them back to JLR when it resumes production. JLR was hit with a cyber attack on the 31st. The shutdown's going on for weeks. We already talked about the different plants. Just a reminder here that there's 700 direct suppliers that rely on the just-in-time production schedules, and that's what was all impacted.
That's a lot of people out of work.
It's so many.
I've seen or heard upwards of 200,000 people are affected by this attack.
I didn't see that number here, but maybe I missed it. I will.
Different article.
JLR has paid roughly £300 million to its partners in recent days, according to Bloomberg. The car maker is aiming to clear the backlog by the end of the month, prioritizing suppliers who are most under pressure so car production can restart quickly when the time comes. In the meantime, JLR has posted around 50 employees to roles where they help to process payments manually as regular systems are down.
Writing checks by hand.
That's what it sounds like to me.
When they have access to all of your systems and you have to shut them down, they probably have access to your bank accounts too.
So somebody had to run down and pull all the cash out, and so now they're counting out £100
They
notes.
probably just called the bank and were like, set up a new account, transfer the money there, whatever is left right now, send us a box of checks real fast.
No, if JLR would have to be compliant with the PCI DSS standards and so on for moving money around, so that side of things should be fairly safe. Their internal JVing is probably junk now, but in terms of anyone else's money and the protection of their accounts, I don't think there's any real worry there.
It's possible. I do think that in terms of like client payment information, that probably should be safe. If they have all of their internal systems, including payments to vendors, accessible through one system that clearly was not zoned properly, someone might still be able to initiate transfers.
Well, again, this is all past tense because the hackers got in. From the sound of it, they disrupted systems and so on, probably to go and do some sort of ransomware attack. They just wanted money. Nowhere have I read anywhere that they were extracting trade information, IP, and financial stuff to go and compromise other systems. This fact that the same group attacked Marks and Spencer's shows a consistency of behavior and so on, leveraging the incompetence of Tata Consulting Services.
Yes. Yeah.
It does seem like there was a ransomware attack, which makes you wonder, have they started to think about maybe paying said ransom?
All I can say
backups.
is I am so glad I don't do this for a living anymore.
So there's a follow-on article that came out right before MAR, and that the latest information we have here says, of course, these things are changing quickly, but this one came out, I think, on Thursday, right before MAR began. JLR said it has begun a phased restart of its operations with parts of its IT system back up and running. The company said it was working to clear backlog of payments to suppliers, and it's increased its processing capacity for invoicing. The production lines may have been suspended since the cyber attack, as we know. In August, factories are expected to remain closed until the next month. So this would be into October. The Prime Minister said the government was working 24/7 on a support package for suppliers.
I do think it's good that the support package currently is aimed at suppliers, not JLR.
But I think if JLR needed the money, I suspect that would happen too. It looks like
Give it to the whole
they have
kit
enough
and caboodle,
cash.
It's a whole networked environment that they all depend on each other.
Oh, yes, very much.
And don't forget, JLR has Tata to back them up, so they still have they have money there.
And Tata should be helping them out at this point.
Yes.
Well, by the time the podcast comes out, who knows what the situation will be, but that's where we are with the cyber attack. I think what we've learned from this is that Land Rover should come out with cyber attack special editions.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
With doors that don't lock, maybe? That's the special?
If that's their solution, I don't think they learned a lesson.
No. When they do special editions, all they do is add some special badging. That's all that's going to happen.
Oh, but see, they could charge extra for deleting the locks as a tribute to the system that was not protected.
That'll help Land Rovers get insured.
This makes me recall the fact that I might be scathing about British Leyland at times and what they did to Rover and Land Rover, but I think British Leyland would have done better in this one than JLR Tata has managed.
And I was just thinking, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to say something or not, but when John was mentioning that the government is considering a support package for the suppliers, I'm thinking this might be the second coming of British Leyland with the federalizing of all the suppliers.
No, I don't think so.
It seems temporary.
It's temporary.
Let's hope.
Just
It all depends on the depth of their planning and so on that they had done before. If they've done proper BCP, DRP, this shouldn't be too bad. If they haven't managed that,
If they'd done proper planning, it wouldn't have happened in the first place.
exactly. Life cycle risk management of your systems. And it's all very well documented internationally.
And on that note, I think why don't we move on from the...
On that note, let's stop talking about computers and start talking about Land Rovers.
All right, this one, next story here, is it stays with the British government, but its Starmer cannot have armored electric Range Rover because of bomb risk. Would-be car buyers considering ditching petrol for electric tend to fret, not always correctly, about higher upfront costs, access to chargers, and whether the battery will last on long journeys. But Keir Starmer has an unusual obstacle to making the switch. Britain's largest car maker has claimed electric vehicles do not offer adequate bomb protection. The Prime Minister's armored Range Rover Sentinels, that's the name of the vehicle, it's the Range Rover Sentinels, will need to remain as petrol versions for the foreseeable future, according to JLR. JLR addressed the issue in written response to the government consultation on EV sales rules. The document obtained by Fast Charge, a newsletter covering electric vehicles, detailed how JLR and other car makers lobbied the UK government to weaken targets requiring them to sell EVs each year. JLR said armored cars should be excluded from the targets, known as zero-emission vehicle mandate, because it, quote, does not see any workable engineering solution to the challenges surrounding an armored BEV, battery electric vehicle, primarily because the required safety levels and blast protection cannot be achieved, unquote. Armored vehicles are a small but very profitable business for the car makers. They usually have bulletproof glass, armored plating, bomb blankets under the floor, adding hundreds of kilograms of weight
to something that's already too heavy because of the batteries.
While JLR did not say what specific vulnerabilities it sees in armored electric vehicles, key engineering roadblocks are likely to include extra weight from the battery cells, range issues, and the time needed to recharge. However, its German rival, BMW, does not appear to share those worries. Its electric i7 protection saloon offers special armoring in the floor and ceiling to protect against explosives on the ground and those carried by drones.
I mean, right now we are still heavily using lithium-based batteries, which any kind of compression or change in the chemical structure is highly dangerous and
flammable.
Unstable.
Explosive in their own right.
Right.
Seemingly, if you look at them wrong.
I can understand trying to be a little risk averse on something that's supposed to be bomb proof.
Yeah, you're also comparing it against a vehicle that has a 25-gallon tank full of petrol.
It does. However, I think if I understand correctly that they have a lot more options to make the petrol tank absorb shock without actually receiving any spark, whereas with a lithium-ion battery, it will melt itself down if there's a compressive force.
And petrol doesn't actually ignite until it's been vaporized. If you can keep it a liquid, it's fine.
Right.
And the other side of it is if it does ignite, it's a lot easier to put out a petrol fire than a battery fire.
Yes.
Very much so.
I've only read a little bit into some of the bomb-proofing and bulletproofing that they do, but a lot of what my understanding is that there are special materials for basically like self-healing materials around petrol tanks and such. And so those can really help mitigate any shrapnel or bullets or anything like that. But that doesn't protect against forces.
And the other thing is that if a projectile should penetrate the skin and penetrate the petrol tank, and yeah, the self-healing's a good idea, but if that projectile penetrates the petrol tank, there's a good chance it won't ignite. But if that projectile penetrates a battery, it shorts out the battery, which will cause a fire.
All right, next, there's only one more story. This is it. It was the cyberattack has just swamped everything for the news, but this is, I guess, a good one. The Defender names finalists for the 2025 Defender Service Awards, and I think I said that Defender name, so we still have the house of brands going. Defender proudly announced 25 finalists across 5 categories for the Defender Service Awards. As presenting partner, they're awarding $5,000 to each of the year's finalists to aid their work. Winners of the Defender Service Awards will be determined by public vote, open from October 3rd through the 19th of this year, 2025, with 6 category winners to receive a new Defender 130 vehicle and $30,000 thanks to the generosity of sponsors. Award sponsors there's several of them. I'll let you read those. Winners will be announced at Destination Defender on November 15th in Temecula, California. Voting begins October 3rd. That's a couple days after the podcast is released. Go out and vote.
And if I recall correctly, you can vote for in each category once per day.
That is correct.
So keep voting, too, because these are pretty important organizations.
As they say in Chicago, vote early and vote often.
Time to go and fire up the botnet.
Uh-oh. Don't circle us back to the cyber attack, please.
And we'll talk about it in a little bit. We did see one of those Defender 130s here on site.
That was last year's winner in the search and rescue,
2024, yeah.
Yes.
So that was last year. Yep, that's correct. Just to refresh, these are the categories. There's the Animal, Wildlife, and Marine Welfare Award. There's the Community Service Award. There's a Search, Rescue, and Emergency Support Services Award. That's the one that was won last year in North Carolina. Veteran and Civil Servant Outreach Award. Outdoor Accessibility and Education Award. Those are the ones. And I think, isn't there like a sixth one that is the...
I think the sixth category is the second chance for previous entrants.
Here it is. A sixth category, Defender Service Honorees, recognizes past finalists from 2021 to 2024 and gives them an opportunity to win a 130 again and award funding. Go out and vote for the Defender Service Awards because it does make an impact, and that is here something in North America that we do.
And keep voting.
A little thing I heard in passing, I guess this you consider this gossip, I think, here at MAR, especially when the Defender Service Award came up. This is heard second, third, fourth hand, maybe, depending on how it goes, but it seems that there are some people in the JLR business stream that thinks the House of Brands is not long for JLR. It might actually get reverted at some point.
It seems like a cumbersome construct.
Yeah. There are some people that think that it's not a good business strategy.
That would be a long philosophical discussion bordering on religious to go and down that path. Let's wait for the news for the future.
And I don't think we've had enough whiskey to enter that discussion properly.
And that's the news for September 2025. Thanks to Lecker Defenders, we're sitting in their lounge area to record the podcast, and we have East Botha with us, who represents Lecker Defenders. Welcome. Thank you very much for letting us sit here and record the podcast.
Absolute pleasure. It was great to have you guys here, and I hope that you enjoyed the furniture, which is all campaign furniture in the style of the original pioneers who went through Africa. This is replica furniture of what they used. The field bar that was in the back of the 1957 Series 1, that is what used to be carried all the way through Africa, and it would be set up just like this overnight, and the gin and tonics would be consumed, and the next morning everything would be packed up and on it went. So that's the idea of it, is to bring the cultural heritage of the British Land Rover and the African...
Where's the gin and tonics? That's the one thing we didn't get, I noticed.
We missed those.
They might have been consumed already.
Okay.
So there was liquor in the Lecker tent?
Yes, there was much liquor in the lacquer tent. It's all been consumed now. The brown water, the clear water, all of the subsequent waters.
Yes.
I'm impressed with the Persian rug here.
That has been up in the garage roof for a while, and we thought what better to do than a complete African style with a Persian rug in the mud. It seemed fitting.
I see that you've managed to keep the Series 1 off of it in case it's a leaker in the Lecker tent next to the liquor.
You know how long he's been waiting to say that?
I've been working on that for a while, so thank you for setting me up.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so what we do as Lecker Defenders, we do frame-off restorations in South Africa. All of our vehicles are from South Africa. Got a workshop over there. We do 110s, 130s, 90s, series, old, new, everything in between. Bring them in completely restored. And we're located in Richmond, Virginia.
How long you guys been in operation?
Since 2016.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you've been doing this a while.
Yeah. It was originally started, a really good friend of mine that I went to school with, that I'd grown up with since I was about 11. Gerard van Meegarden was his name. Him and I have been in Land Rovers since we could touch the pedals and the steering wheels. And unfortunately, he passed away about 3 years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
So everything that we do now, each vehicle gets a badge on the back, and it's called Lacquer Imports, the Big G Legacy, because he was a relatively large guy. So we're carrying it on now, and every vehicle has a little piece of a memory for him and carrying on.
What does lekker mean?
So lekker is a filler word that you can use in many situations. For instance, this is a very lekker podcast. The gin and tonics last night were very lekker.
Is it lacquer or lekker?
It's lekker.
Lekker.
So it's almost like liquor or leaker.
Or lacquer.
Or lacquer.
It sounds like lacquer to me. when he says
Lacquer
it.
is the closest one.
So
as
lacquer.
well. Yeah.
All right, because from you, I thought it was lekker, but it sounds like you're saying it like lacquer.
Lacquer.
Okay,
That's
Some of that is the accent in play. The word is spelled Lekker, and that comes from Afrikaans. Is that correct?
Dutch derivative from Afrikaans. There's a lot of Dutch in the Afrikaans language. So, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of Dutch people look at that and go, oh, are you Dutch? And we go,
Our good friend of the show, the Bell family, use that word from time to time in their books.
That's right. I remember that now. What else do you guys do besides restorations? You sell furniture?
yeah, Melville Moon Furniture, the campaign furniture, we bring that in as well.
Yep.
And we make sure that it's all fitting for the Land Rovers that come in. And we do everything from overlanding to rooftop tents to safari gears to the whole lot.
And how would one find you if they wanted to have your help?
Website is the best place, blackerdefenders.com. Can find us there. We've got a YouTube channel as well, Blacker Defenders, or just reach out to us east@blackerdefenders.com.
And that's spelled Lekker.
I think we could put a link in our show notes as well.
Absolutely. Of course we will. Do you drive a Land Rover?
I do. I drive many Land Rovers.
Do you have a preference?
I do. 2007 L322 4.2 liter supercharged.
Nice.
My absolute greatest car ever.
Okay.
220,000 miles on it. I am begrudgingly, not really begrudgingly, but somewhat begrudgingly, giving it to my son who just turned 16. That is going to be his first car.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
I also have the L405 Range Rover, the TDV6. Great vehicle as well. I've got the new L663 Defender. And then I've got a couple of cars that my wife doesn't know about until now. I buy a lot
Please
of
mute your player for a second.
I buy a lot of vehicles in Africa that we go through and restore. So we've got 7-8 vehicles in South Africa at the moment in various stages of restoration to come over.
It's good to see you driving the talk. So you actually own Land Rovers. You sell Land Rovers. I think it's fantastic.
And my new Defender, which is parked right next to your vehicle, is absolutely covered in mud.
It is. I've been
As it should
admiring
be.
that.
It is as it should be, as nature intended.
East, thanks very much for letting us hang out here. Use your space, your power, and I know you want to go home, so we're going to wrap things up.
As do we.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate you letting us use the space.
Thanks to you guys. Appreciate it.
And I'm excited to welcome our guest this month. Us, we're the guest this month.
It's rare that we're
Welcome.
all together.
We're all together in person,
It's a
Yes.
very special event for our 150th episode.
and we are live at Pearl's Pond for MAR 2025. And we're still here in the Lekker Defenders Lounge.
It's starting to get quiet because a lot of people have left already. They want to get home because they have jobs to get back to. And so we're here enjoying the quiet, doing a little podcasting.
In the sunshine.
Yeah, there's clear blue skies
The
and
rains have stopped.
everything is drying out while we record.
Which is the good thing for packing up. And MAR, of course, as you may or may not know, is an acronym for mud and rain. And so we got here on Thursday, it was raining. Friday was a dry day. Yesterday it rained and rained and rained and made lots of mud. And today we're drying out.
As everyone's pulling out, the sun has come out, which is nice.
Yeah, and I'm meeting this sort of red clay mud for the first time.
It makes the trails so slick and slippery.
Slippy to go Western PA on us,
And also a Scottish term, by the way. Slippy comes from the Scottish.
which is the indigenous peoples of Western Pennsylvania.
That's right. Exactly. It made the trails very slippy.
Yes, so slippy you couldn't get any gription.
I didn't get a chance to go actually on the trails. I just heard stories from other folks, but it was certainly
Just driving the access roads in the venue here is almost off pavement or on trail.
yeah. Bill Cooper did allow me to drive his Series 1. I didn't go too far, but drive a little short distance, and it was a grand time. I really enjoyed that.
We'll have to have a short chat sometime as you compare the NAS Freelander experience to driving an 80-inch.
The reason that came up is Oxford was back. here at MAR. And so the conversation came up about driving Series 1s. And I was told that Oxford was not a good example of a Series 1 to drive because it had just been used.
Oxford's had a tough life.
Oxford had a tough life. Thank you. So Bill said, I have my Series 1 here. Why don't you drive it to get a sense of what a little better example of driving a Series 1?
Or at least a different example, because not every Series 1 experience is going to be like one particular truck.
Being hand-built, especially, 80, coming up on 80 years ago, 70 years ago? Yeah, I can see that happening.
And if we hadn't mentioned it already, we are at Pearl's Pond, which is a longtime home of the MAR, but there was quite a period when we were not here, and there is a certain amount of new management we were told yesterday that we should not refer to it as the venue formerly known as Pearl's Pond. It is still known as Pearl's Pond. So we are coming to you live from Pearl's Pond.
And Pearl is actually still around, so...
Pearl was out the other night, apparently. Came to visit.
Yes.
I did not know that the pond was named after the family, a Pearl, part of the family. I did not know that. I learned that. Is that a manufactured or artificial pond? Was that man-made?
I believe so.
I believe they made it and named it after Pearl. I don't think Pearl actually made it herself, but that would be a neat story.
Yeah.
That would. It would require quite a bit of digging.
Or some machinery.
Well, let's talk about some specific activities that we got to see and view while we were here. One, Land Rover itself returned with the Land Rover Lounge, and we're looking at it now as they're tearing it down.
That's JLR to you, sir.
That's actually Land Rover North America. It's not JLR. It's actually Land Rover North America put that together. They had the available of coffee. A tea was limited. The gentleman that ran it does remember me from the Jubilee. And he goes, "Yeah, I did bring some tea, but they ran out. They ran out of tea."
This is Land Rover North America, after all. We drink coffee here on the continent.
Some do. Not all of us. Not all of us do. But that was nice of Land Rover to supply a little lounge. There's some seating, and you could get some free coffee.
A little chance to get up off the mud for a little bit.
Actually, to give credit to what credit is due, I got my tea from the Rovers Club tent.
Well done, sir. See, no one told me about that. See,
yes.
Okay. I see how it is.
They had English breakfast as appropriate.
Yorkshire Gold is the tea you should actually have. I brought some Yorkshire Gold my own, and I shared it with the Land Rover Lounge guys. Maybe for the 80th, they'll bring some Yorkshire Gold.
That would be a sponsorship we should chase for that.
That's it. Perfect. And there was the Ginseng Bog Challenge, which I think takes place at Mike McKegg's site.
Penland Farm, yes.
At Penland Farm.
Which is just up the road.
My understanding is that no vehicles ever been able to get through that Ginseng Bog?
That's my understanding, yes. Though rumor had it someone actually made it through this year.
No, they talked about this
winched
last night at the dinner, that they almost got there. It was like everyone was cheering, and I guess you always have to get winched out, in and out of the bog. They gave an attendee an award because he would run the winch lines all the time. He was just like there running winches all the time to get. But one truck, I don't know what it was. I just heard the second hand. There's a shelf apparently at the end of the bog that you have to get a good run at to get out of, and that's where most people seem to get hung up. And that truck almost made it, almost, and so everyone was cheering, but it didn't.
And since it's a bog, you really can't get a good run at that shelf.
That's exactly right.
And there's apparently a tree in the way, so you can't get a run into the bog. So you have to enter the bog from basically a stop, and then try to build speed whilst in the bog
to get up over the shelf.
To get over the shelf.
There you go. And I'm told it's worse than the Pit of Despair up at Maine Winter Romp. That's what I've heard.
Not sure, but the Pit of Despair is something that everyone should try and experience because it's at the bottom of a ravine, and
which you can get a run at.
Yes,
still.
It's downhill into the pit, and then you got to get up a frozen, icy surface to get out. So the mud here has the slippiness and so on to go.
Well used, sir. Excellent. Use the word
give you
slippy.
A challenge.
It is almost the consistency of slush on ice.
And then on Saturday morning, there was the Vineyard Vines Mid-Atlantic Series event. And actually, that was a good time for it to rain because then everybody could go over and see the Vineyard Vines Series. So they invited series trucks to come to the event. It was really just a car show. But that also included, with the Vineyard Vines Mid-Atlantic Series, they also brought over the Land Rover Classics brought expedition vehicles. You may recall they were at her herd. They were at the Pebble Beach. There were 5 or 10.
There were 10.
There were 10 at Pebble.
3 made it to Mar, and they were also at the Vineyard Vine series. And so there was Oxford, of course, as everybody well knows.
Our old friend has returned to visit.
Exactly. Pollyanna, which is used by Barbara Toy, which is a Series 1 that she drove around the world. And then there was the Darien Gap Range Rover. When Range Rover launched the Range Rover, they ran it through the Darien Gap, and we had Colonel Blashford Schnell, is that right? Remember his name? It was on the podcast talking about going through the Darien Gap. So those 3 vehicles were here at Mar. It was very exciting to see them. I did get to ride in the Darien Gap truck, which was nice. I got a little ride in that one. That was great.
So you've done 2 of the 3 now.
I did sit inside of Pollyanna. I don't think anybody was watching. I don't know if I was allowed. I just did it.
So your butt has experienced all 3 of the
My butt
vehicles.
has experienced all 3 of those special vehicles. And Mike Bishop, who's with Land Rover Classics, helped to organize all of that, make sure the vehicles were here, got the vehicles to Pebble Beach, including the Royal vehicles last year. He all organized that. We talked to him here at Mar. He's going to be on an upcoming podcast. He's going to give us all the details on all 3 of those vehicles.
But a big thanks today to Mike for making that happen.
Absolutely.
Yes, and he did do a short presentation at the Vineyard Vines series to introduce everybody to them and give an overview.
Although it was hard to hear because Mike does not speak up well.
Yeah, there was no amplification. Yeah. I did ask him, how many times do you give this talks on these vehicles?
That's his job as Mr. Land Rover.
That's right. Yeah, so it was great to see Oxford again. Oxford still has the same stickers that we put on it at the very beginning. So there's still the Fort Pitt Land Rover stickers on there. There's the Hippo sticker for the Freelander days. There's a Helltown sticker still on there. So it's very exciting.
And it's still pimping the podcast.
And pimping the podcast.
Is.
I think there's probably just about every club in North America has a sticker on there.
I am so glad to see that they're all still there and retained despite crossing the Atlantic.
I had heard some of them had gotten removed, but somehow ours have stayed on.
And there may be like stickers representing all the North American clubs, but there is only one podcast being represented in sticker upon that truck.
Yes, we're throwing shade.
The
Wonderful.
original podcast.
And it was great to see Pollyanna. I think it's time. This is something I think we all would like to do is I think it's time for Barbara Toy to have her moment and get people aware more of Barbara Toy, what she did, and seeing Pollyanna, I think, helps to kick that off.
I must say, I didn't know much about the story either, other than there was this woman named Barbara Toy who had a series that she drove a lot, and it was called Pollyanna, and that's about all I knew. So it was nice to hear, especially the stories from Mike Bishop and from Bill Cooper as well, and knows a fair amount of Barbara Toy information.
Yes, and the Series 1 that Bill Cooper let John drive was actually the one that he drove across the country, he and his wife, for the Barbara Toy tribute run. Yes.
Yep.
And now, for those that are interested in expedition vehicles in general and so on, and want to go mining, the Series 1 Club, through their Legend magazine, has published a number of articles on various expeditions that happened in the 1950s, of which Barbara Toys and the First Overland and so on are just 2 examples of a lot of traveling that used to go on. It's impressive to read about.
Did I hear correctly that Barbara Toy was not just the first woman, but the first person to circumnavigate the globe in a Land Rover?
I can't answer that, but it's probably very close, yes.
Yeah.
Probably is.
I think in terms of officially, yes, it seems that's the case, unless somebody can find an earlier example.
There's another
only
case of a couple Canadians that took an 80-inch around the world. That vehicle is near Toronto right now. But that would be getting into dates of when it was done, because Barbara Toy did hers in several pieces over a number of years, while this other group did it all
Like a
in one big
continuous-
shot.
Right.
But she was largely by herself, was she not?
Yes, she was
She
by
was.
herself, and this was 2
That's
chaps
a
that
huge
did it.
accomplishment back
Yes.
Solo individual travel. Like even now it would be special.
1950s, a woman alone, that would be
Mhm.
very different.
And she has a wooden club stick it's still there on the dash.
then. That is her vehicular security system.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the title of her books and so on, a lot of them start with a fool in, And that all comes from the fact that she was called a fool by many people for doing this.
It would appear foolish back in that day.
It might still appear foolish.
Probably more foolish today, given the world. After the Second World War, things were rather different. More dangerous in some cases, much safer in others.
So that was Pollyanna, and then there was, of course, the Darien Gap, and we had Oxford. So that was all part of the special expedition vehicles that were here.
Tune in the future and listen to Michael Bishop go into all the details. It's actually very interesting to hear.
And he tells us about how he selected the vehicles. I didn't realize how many expeditions there had been, and that people just don't know about. And thankfully, Mike is being in the Land Rover Classics. They're able to reference this material, find the vehicles. Even if Land Rover doesn't have them, they have access to where those vehicles could be.
And I think that's really the toughest job of a curator, is not just finding stuff, but choosing which ones are the most significant or that are the best to project the theme that you want to project. That's a tough job.
There's so many to choose from, and there's so many stories that are not known. For example, there's a yellow 80-inch up near Ottawa called Yukon Gold. The maps painted on the door show that it started off in Germany, went down to South America, first South Africa, over to South America, and made its way up to Yukon, where it was left. But very little is known about that expedition.
It's pretty amazing that we have collected so many of and preserved so many of these vehicles and are uncovering more of the stories to the point where, as curator, he had to narrow it down to 10.
As a tangent, one question I ask people is how many vehicles, how many Series 1s in North America still exist? Because we know how many were brought here, right down to the serial numbers of them. And you think about any car, 50, 60 years later, how many are still known and exist? And the average for Series 1 Land Rovers in North America is 30% of them, which is a huge number when you compare against other things.
I challenge you to find another make and model. That many of them are still around.
It's hard. And then you go, like NADA's, the 6 cylinders, there's only 17% of them are known.
Is that mainly due to the production using aluminum? Because I would think that especially the American market, was mostly steel domestically.
The aluminum bodies always have looked good, and they last forever, so that would preserve the vehicle from being hauled off to the scrapyard. Also, steel from the 40s and 50s and into the 60s was first shot steel, very well done. What the Achilles heel of a Series 3, especially the early ones over here, is that was the era that they started to recycle steel. So you had your Austin Marinas and your Fords and so on rusting at the dealership because they couldn't make recycled steel properly at the time. They didn't get it hot enough. But that's all contributed to how long the longevity of these things. The fact that it was temporary wartime measure to post-war measure to export, and they're melting down airplanes to make Land Rovers, contributed to their success.
And I think another thing that's contributed to the success is the basic design that's all bolted together and modular, because you can it's designed to last forever if you just keep throwing parts at it.
Very true.
And them being field serviceable meant that they were often field serviced and not just
you could be in the field and service it
and fully abandoned.
And often you are in a field when you need to service it.
Well,
and if you're not a mechanic, don't worry, you will be.
And here at Mar, there were many servicings of Land Rovers in this field where everyone was camping.
That's part of the Mar. And I must say, I think it's probably the biggest Mar I've ever been to. I don't know if it's the biggest one that's ever happened, but I hear there was north of 350 trucks.
I think it's the biggest it's ever
500 people here, and lots of interesting stuff to look at. It's just fun to walk around and see, because Land Rovers are highly personalized. You can make it whatever you want. So it's just really nice to see everyone's different vision of what a truck should be.
Everybody had their own little take on it. There were, on the modern side, there were 3 Octas here. I don't know if they went off-road, but there were actual 3 Octas, the Defender Octas. It was amazing to see all 3.
So if the Octa gets stuck and you put a strap on it to another Octa, and then that's still having trouble, so you put another Octa strapped together, does that make it an Icosi Dodeca?
So moving on. That was good. That was great. That was actually great.
I had to do that.
We're leaving it in. I'm glad you did it. It was great. I just don't know what to say to it.
There is nothing that can be said.
But also, what happens when you press the octa button on all of them?
Can you string them together, you're saying? So you
So-
can have octas in series.
So link them using a TCS app, of course.
Oh, no.
No,
Let's not go back there.
let's not, please. There was something called the Technical Experience Area.
T for short.
They invited two of the I4 WDTA instructors to come to MAR, and they were able to talk about I4 WTA.
We've been exercising our tongues this weekend, trying to articulate very carefully I4WDTA. It's harder than you might think.
It is. We did speak with them, and they all wear the badges. And so it's easy to remember when you're talking to them, but it turns out they just say I4.
Because even when you're reading it off their patch, it's still hard to say quickly.
And we did talk to Eric Brown and John Brady. They are both with I4. And we talked to them. They'll also be on a future podcast. They talk about I4WTA, what that means. It's I4WTA is they have an evaluation session, which is not actually training. So even though they're certified trainers, anyways, they'll talk all about that and explain.
It's really a standard for certifying trainers so that they're meeting a certain level, a standard of quality for training people. But the organization itself is about that standard. And so both of our guests are certified trainers through I4.
And the one thing there did say that is a teaser is he does not use the phrase off-road. He likes to use on-trail or off the pavement because he thinks that by using the phrase off-road, it gives people a different sense that maybe the environment's being impacted in a negative way. And when you say on-trail, it looks like there's an established path. It was an excellent point because one of the things that I4 talks about is tread lightly, and so that we can keep areas that we can go and use, and that's all connected to understanding how to recover your vehicle, but also understanding how to use the vehicle and where to use the vehicle and how to treat the environment that you're in.
With the least amount of negative impact upon the surface of the planet.
They'll be coming up on an upcoming episode. Don't know which yet because we've actually got a number of things in the hopper, which is good in the upcoming months. And there was also RTV. And
Run by Jeff Aronson from Rovers Magazine and Rovers North. And interestingly enough, I think Jeff is moderating because now it is no longer the RTV. He did say RTV.
RTV winners were announced, which I had a couple beers last night at the dinner, and I did not write down who.
Imagine
the winners
that,
were.
having a couple beers with
Well,
dinner.
That's the way you do it. The dinner, by the way, was excellent. It was chicken and beef, vegetables, mashed potatoes. Dinner was excellent, because especially when you consider you're out in a field and you're feeding 300-400 people in a buffet line. I thought it was very well done.
But the current management of Pearls Pond has erected a very nice permanent pavilion to have this event, which beats the temporary tents that have been used in the past.
Yes, it was very convenient to have all of the shows there. There were excellent food trucks at several periods during the days.
With actual electricity in that pavilion.
Yes, and
I had some really good tacos when I got in on Friday. They had these chorizo tacos and that food truck.
tacos were excellent.
They were
Burgers we
wonderful.
had were
Yeah,
excellent. Yeah,
yeah.
no, there was really good food.
And then they also had the final of the Anarch Cup Challenge. The Anarch Cup is something that takes place at the Anarch supported events throughout the year. And this was the final of the 3, or was it 2 this year? Dixon, you remember, was it 2 or?
I'm not sure offhand.
Yeah, I think it was just 2 events this year. And that's where different club teams that are part of Anarch compete. It's similar to RTV and other activities.
There is an RTV component plus some physical challenges and some other things.
Yeah, they didn't do the physical challenge here at MAR because the weather was bad and they didn't want people falling down in the mud. The winner overall was the ROAV Team 1, which is Charles Gilpin and Trey Crowder. Congratulations to them on winning the Anarch Cup for 2025.
So, Trey, I guess you get to have bragging rights over your dad this year.
That's right. Yes, because the New Mexico club had won 2 years in a row.
Which Doug
Doug's.
never let Trey forget.
And at the end of the day, there was the Teeter-Totter Challenge that was sponsored by our hosts for this morning, Lecker, with their Series 188 sitting here.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't done the teeter-totter in a long time. Last time I did it was with my D2. It was at Amar, and it was the first one that was not at Pearls Pond, actually. No, maybe the second. I was on the teeter-totter and I actually did it, but there was no one around to take a picture. No one else saw me. But I tell you, I was successfully balanced a D2.
If you say so. It was the proverbial tree falling in the woods with no one around to see it.
Yeah, you really can't get out to take a picture.
No,
of
that was the
having done
thing.
it.
That's the thing is I was in there. I'm like, I'm just going to try, because I had tried it like 2 or 3 times that weekend and like I always failed. And I gave people my phone to take a picture or whatever, or maybe it was a regular camera.
If
And
you
then-
knew you were going to nail it, you could have put like a selfie stick out there or something.
So that was MAR for 2025 here at Pearls Pond. It was a wonderful event.
The site formerly known as Pearls Pond.
Dixon, do you have any final thoughts on attending MAR for what is this, the 90,000th time?
Been here many times. It is one of those events that everyone should try and go to once. It is on the large scale of events and very worth going and seeing that, though that is not to say that people should be looking at going to the medium-sized events run by all the regional clubs in North America or the small events that are only 10 or 15 trucks. Every one of these events offers a different experience, and it's well worth going at least once to experience and see what you actually like.
What I'm hearing is you think everyone should go to every event or any event they can.
You should go to pick and choose what you're going to. There's a list that I go to, which range from very small to the MAR. Some of them are iconic, like the birthday party or the winter romp. There's another one that's interesting to experience. But to get the most out of your vehicle, you need to go and try it in different conditions and different landscape. Here you've got your slippy mud. In Canada, you've got your muskeg. In Maine at the winter romp, you've got your slush and ice and everything.
Cold.
Cold. Okay, yes, your Freelander has heat and the Series 1 doesn't.
Heated seats. You know, in the Freelander once I was camping and it got so cold. This was not a Land Rover event, and it got so cold, everyone was huddled up around the fire, and it was time to go to bed. And I was like, I turned on the heated seats for 15 minutes, and I slept in the Freelander instead of my tent. It was fantastic.
People lining up to take their turns on your butt warmers.
They locked the doors.
I personally intend to not make this my one and only MAR. This has definitely been a great experience. I also did not get out on the trails, so I need to come back and get out on the trails.
Has this encouraged you in any way to get your Rover ready?
Yes. Every single event I go to encourages me more and more. Yeah.
Infinitesimally. Right?
Yes. No. Greatly.
Okay.
It's just,
all right.
You think maybe
it's a
we
process.
could? You think maybe we could talk Anarch into sponsoring an event to build Morgan's Rover?
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Why doesn't Morgan put his pile of parts and Rover on a trailer and bring it to a large event like the MAR and then just let the hordes of people loose on it? It would be complete in hours.
It would be.
I
Yeah.
actually have a Rover friend in Pittsburgh who has a party tent that he rents out. We could bring that,
Ooh.
shove all your truck and parts inside, and you could be here in the vendor village.
It's even better if I just pretend that I broke it on the trail on registration day.
So just,
And I just had to fix something
so
real
just
quick.
slap a little mud around and
Your only challenge is
No.
going to be that this is the perfect excuse to buy every size spanner under the sun because your vehicle will be coming in Whitworth, in SAE, in metric, in
it
BA,
does.
and probably other threads that we've never even heard of.
you need that anyway, don't you?
Yes, my Series 3 is an 82, so it already has a mix.
Oh, it's begun to become metrified.
Yes.
You were also approached, sir, about bringing series parts back.
I was.
I think
and
this is something else. I think it's maybe more important than getting you behind a Rover is maybe getting series parts back up and running.
So here's what I think. I think you bring your truck. We get a tent, we put it in Vendor Village, hang a banner out front for seriesparts.com,
There we go.
and watch this amalgamation of series parts go into building a series truck.
I like that. I like that.
There is a need that you need to fill, and that is connecting people who need series parts with people who are getting rid of or have too many of or maybe even trying to sell series parts.
Or who
You
just,
are the man.
or just who want to be part of the community by spreading the wealth of series parts to those who need them.
Right.
I've long said, if only there were a website where one could go.
There used to be.
Seems to me there was once.
That's how you got in the podcast.
I guess it's business continuity planning with the disappearance and reappearance of this site that should be addressed.
Oh, getting called out.
That's fair. That's fair. Fortunately, it was never hacked.
Does it still exist? Is it still a website?
The website is not up, but I still have all of the source code and the domain names and all of that. It's time for a refurbishment.
Couldn't you throw AI at it?
Ooh, no.
Harold, any last thoughts about attending MAR?
It's good to be back. I haven't been to a MAR in a while, and I've been saying for a while I should go to another MAR. So it's nice that we were able to get the whole band together, and that was the extra inducement I needed to make it happen. It's good to be here. Likewise, I did not get out on the trail much, but I did give lots of joy rides in my 130, which has the Cummins crate engine in it, which some people had not seen before.
It was the podcast transport vehicle.
It was the podcast transport vehicle. We had to transport our gear around the site to various locations to do our filming and to go visit the Vineyard Vines event. It was quite useful as our team bus.
Yes, and the tray back was very convenient for some of the rides that I got, but also much safer than walking in the slippy mud where it's hard to get grippage.
Gription.
Gription. See, you can tell I'm a Vermonter.
The slippy mud with the consistency of one-shot grease.
Yeah, MAR was great. It was good to be back. I didn't come last year, but coming this year was nice. The weather turned out, at least for my arrival day and my departure day, the weather's actually pretty decent.
Yeah, like I said, it was a wet day, then a dry day, then a wet day, then a dry day. It's very interesting, but I was observing when I got here that it's actually been 18 years since I've been to a MAR at Pearls Pond, so that was nice. I've been to multiple different locations, but not that many MARs actually over that period, but that was my first MAR, and now I'm back, full circle.
And we've all said this is a very large event. It's great to see people that year after year, everybody's become a friend, and it's great to see everybody, again, their trucks, even if they're not going out on the trail. You're seeing your friends, you're participating in the broader community, making new friends, and it's a great opportunity. Whether it's a large event or a small event, you will make friends when you go to a Rover
I
event.
didn't make it onto the trails because I'd walk 10 feet and run into someone else that I'd seen, and you chat for a while, and you try and walk to go and get to something, and that's why I was late to the podcast with the I-4 folks. I could walk 30 feet, and I've got someone else to talk to.
You needed to be on the team transporter. We would have just plowed through the crowd and gotten you here.
Although at one point we did pick up a Klingon. A surprise, Dave Short arrived at our campsite unawares to Harold.
Yeah, Fireman Short gets a pass. He worked very hard to put this on. Thanks to him and his entire team that made this happen.
The entire ROAV organization, Lawrence is the president of ROAV. I know they have almost weekly meetings in preparation for MAR. There's a lot of work that goes into it, so thanks to them. Thanks to ROAV. Thanks to all the sponsors that allow ROAV to put this on. Thanks to JLR, Land Rover North America for also participating. It was great to be here.
And I will say one more thing on the topic earlier about making new friends. I made a new friend yesterday who came up and asked me to take his picture with his truck because he was almost muddier than his truck, which was very muddy. It was fun to see him having that much fun.
He was covered in all the mud that was also covering his truck.
He was as orange as his truck.
Wonderful.
And he told me that this is his 22nd consecutive MAR.
Wow, that's impressive.
Very.
Is he a local Virginian?
I believe he had New Jersey plates on his.
Okay.
He had a new 110 and a D2.
Okay.
The new 110 was his transport. He says it does get out and get every bit as muddy as the D2, but not today.
This was also the 50th anniversary of ROAV. I think it's the 41st MAR. And I believe, is this the largest event in North America for Land Rovers?
The largest event would be the Anarch events that have happened for the 50 and 75th. This is the largest club event.
How about largest annual event?
Largest event. Longest running annual event would be the birthday party up in Ottawa.
Okay.
Followed by, I think, their maple syrup rally. Then it comes, I believe, the Minnesota Club Picnic.
The Minnesota
is
Club
also
Picnic
up there.
has done 42 contiguous years now.
This is up there. We're about fourth place right now, but it will soon be in third.
Now, if you've not been to an event and you're thinking about going out to an event, it doesn't have to be MAR, it could be any event, but go out, take your truck. It doesn't mean you have to go on the trail. Doesn't mean you have to participate in all the activities, but at least getting out, meeting other Land Rover owners, seeing what is possible and what's capable. These are great events for that.
Or if there's no event near you and you've got a few friends that have Rovers, start doing your own thing. The Minnesota event that's been going for 42 years now started with a little list of some people who were interested in Land Rover on a piece of paper. And one of them said, you know what, let's have a picnic. Let's get together. So organize something, make it happen, and people will show.
And that's actually a good conclusion to this, because that's how ROAV started. It was a bunch of, 5 or 6 guys that were in, I think, the Roanoke area, and they were the founders of ROAV. And they were just sitting around going, why don't we start doing something and start getting together? And they were doing that on their own in ad hoc fashion. But out of that, they started the club. They started having consistent events, and that was MAR.
The same way that a lot of clubs have started. Ottawa started in 74 and continued on and evolved just as Virginia has done.
It's never too late to start something.
Thanks to Lecker Defenders for letting us sit here in their lounge area and tell you all about what happened to MAR. Give you a field report for this month. And that's a wrap for MAR of 2025. We hope you enjoyed show number 150 live from Pearls Pond.
I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but it might perhaps be the shortest episode we've ever done.
I want to thank our guest this month, us. We were guests this month doing the wrap-up of MAR 2025. Thanks to Dixon, thanks to Morgan, thanks to Harold for coming out to the MAR itself. It was good to see you guys in person and talking about the community we all enjoy.
I don't believe we've ever recorded with all of us in person before.
I don't believe so, no.
No.
Because the only time we actually ever talked to each other in person was in New York, but we didn't record.
Correct.
That's right. We did.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been a great time down here. Now we get to see who's the longest to get home.
Yeah, it's a competition, I guess.
Between you two guys, maybe.
I do have one final question for Dixon. What did you drive here?
Well,
it wasn't 80 inches, was
well,
it?
the 12 hours to get here, it was actually the diesel Audi, because you're not going to drive a series vehicle down the I-81 to get here and arrive in
a reasonable
safely.
Amount of time and safely.
I was waiting for you to say you came down in a Freelander.
Nope, you'd have to find one that runs first.
There was one here. I don't know if it was running, but there was a Freelander here. And also thanks to the One True Packs for continued production support. We should have had him show up.
We should. We got to get him back in a Rover.
That's right. We need to get him, another person we need to get back in a Rover.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. You're not one to talk about that, Morgan.
No.
We post a new podcast at the end of every month. Our website, CentreSteer.com, has all our shows to listen to and show notes with links to the stories we discussed in today's podcast, a short list of stories this month. You can directly support the podcast at patreon.com/CentreSteer. You can buy us a t-shirt, buy us a sticker, even buy us a tea/brown water. Visit our website for all of those details. Thank you for listening live from Pearls Pond for MAR 2025. We'd love to hear from you and what you're up to in your Land Rover.
On behalf of the entire crew here at the CentreSteer podcast, all together for the first time in person, I would like to thank you for listening today for the 150th time. We know you have a choice when it comes to your podcasting content, and we do appreciate your choosing us, the original, full-powered, 2-hour podcast. Please take a moment to look around you for any personal items you may be leaving behind, especially in the overhead bins. Remember that some items may have shifted during the show. Please watch your step because it's very muddy out there, and you may now resume your important things. How's their mustard business?
They relish it.
And this concludes the podcast, as we will all be leaving John to himself at this point.
Good night.